Well, I can't quite place the face, but I know evil when I see it. Here's a look at the Mattel Master Universe Origins original concept art Hordak and Grizzlor. Masters of the Universe presents sketchbook series featuring figures inspired by the original concept drawings of fan-favorite characters before they evolved into final forms of Eternia's greatest heroes and villains. It's really cool to see that something sinister could survive outside of a sketch. Before, though, we get a closer look at the concept art of both Hordak and Grizzlor, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the figures stand. Sold as a set, pretty hard to find set. Luckily, I was able to find this at a local toy show. The guy was selling for $80. I talked him down to about $70. And I think even walking away for the $70 set of 2 figures in a concept design like this, I don't think that was that bad of a price at all. I'm going to be also bringing in a couple of Hordaks and, of course, the Grizzlor we got from the Origins line. But that's, again, not to get too ahead of ourselves. First, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. The original concept of Hordak stands, at about 5 3/4 of an inch in height. That translates, though, to a figure that's 14 centimeters tall. Then on to Grizzlor, and he might actually be my favorite of the two. He's going to be a little bit taller. He's actually closer to 6 inches in height, or about 15 centimeters tall. So how about my Hordaks? Well, I got a couple of these, so we're going to bring them right now. Here's the original Hordak. Although this isn't the original head sculpt, what I ended up doing was I took the head that came included with the Buzzsaw Hordak, because he came included with 2, and I essentially just swapped it out. I think the smiling face on the default Hordak works a little bit better. Speaking, though, of Buzzsaw Hordak, here's the other Hordak I have. This one does have the open front chest, and of course it has a little Buzzsaw blade inside. For a while, I thought I had lost the Buzzsaw blade inside. Not that anybody really cares, but luckily I was able to find it. So, there's 2 Hordaks. Probably more the traditional look to Hordak that you're used to seeing. Very much a completely deviation than the original concept design of him. And seeing, of course, this is the design concept of Grizzlor. Here's what the figure looks like with the Origins version of Grizzlor. Which, funny though enough, I actually found at the exact same toy show. Different seller. In both cases, I was able to also talk them down. And I almost even feel like I got Grizzlor for around $70. Even though, again, it wasn't sold. Didn't sell it as a set, but I got Grizzlor for about that same price. That's what I got for the concept figures here. So let's talk less about the toy shows and talk more about the accessories that come included with the figures. Now, if you were to really look at the things that come with both Hordak and Grizzlor, I mean, the only thing that they really have is a couple of claws. The claws are actually more designed for Grizzlor, and the claws just happen to be, just reaching off to the side, the same claws that came included with Terror Claw Skeletor. I thought there was a perfect use to reuse these again, because I think the only time we've ever gotten these claws were the ones that were attached onto the ends of Skeletor's hands, even though, again, you can't just attach these. Looking at the molding of looking at the 2, you can see that they are the exact same mold, just one happens, though, being cast in purple plastic. The other one is more of a shinier gunmetal gray. They attach the exact same way as well, so if you look at the inside of them, they actually have like little bracelets, and that basically forms around the forearm, and that just attaches onto the arms. So let's go ahead and do that. Or should we do that? Yeah, let's do that. So let's go ahead and we'll just snap that onto the arms here of Grizzlor on one side, and do the same on the other side. Now Grizzlor has, he was already kind of imposing already, but now the fact that you add these big metallic blades on the ends of his arms, boy, that's a pretty cool looking figure. It does make him, granted, a little bit more front heavy, but we'll kind of look at him more. I think I might, even though I've done all this now with Grizzlor, I think I might actually end up looking at him second. Let's first look at Hordak. Hordak looks interesting enough. Like, actually, if you go back and look at the history of Hordak, this is one of the original designs of the character, and he's actually seen a couple of interesting designs. At the time of also doing the review of this, I have also ordered the Hurricane Hordak from Mattel Creations, which there's actually a little more of a connection as to why I end up getting this figure, not just for the fact it's the original concept design of the character. Now, Hordak doesn't really have an accessory other than really just this large gun that he has on the ends of his forearm. It does look like you can detach it, although it probably would just be attached by a ball peg. The thing about it, though, is once you detach this, and I haven't yet done this, I guess you probably would be able to put that onto a ball peg, but then basically what you'd be left behind is just a little stump and a peg. I'm probably just going to end up leaving it on him. He's a rather interesting looking character. Most people, when they tend to think of Hordak, tend to think of this Hordak, more the pig face with a collar piece around the back of it. He looks less really like this version of Hordak. Kind of looks more like something you would see from the world of Mad Max. Still, though, you can see he's got some really cool detailing on the front of his face. Now, I say this also about like Hurricane Hordak. Not only was I super excited because I was always a big fan of that design of character, but I think also he has an alternate head sculpt, and I'm not gonna say this too early, but this guy's probably gonna be making an appearance for that review. But the head sculpt looks good. He's got the red eyes there. He doesn't really have a pig nose this time around, but what he does have instead is like a really gnarly looking biker's helmet. Horns sticking out the ends. These are actually made of softer plastic. The fact that they've even gone into the back and sculpted in details that you know, as a collector, unless you really turn the figure's head around, would even notice that it's there. The head sculpt does look quite good. I mean, again, the coloring is a more paler complexion, but I guess it's not that real different than when you look at the coloring of Hordak anyways. I mean, like the coloring of his skin, it's pretty close. I'd say it's pretty close. And you can also really take the head off because, again, they have mix and match capabilities. Just take the head off that one, take the head off this one. And yeah, if you wanted to, you could put Hordak's head on here. I don't really think it really necessarily works. I mean, already I kind of already have an established idea of what Hordak's body should look like. I feel like maybe the head is a little too big when you compare it with the rest of this normal-sized body that Hordak has. How many H's have we just used here? And I suppose you probably could also use this armor piece, too. It looks like it attaches only by snaps on the sides. I'm not going to do it just because these never get back in place the way that they should. You just unsnap it here and onto the other side of the village. You just unsnap it here and just detach this, and if you want to use the armor for something else. The armor does have some cool spikes on the side. Now, I don't know if these are supposed to be like ripped material and why they can get away with not actually going in and painting them. I feel like it's ripped material and not actually metal spikes. He's got this cool collar piece also around him as well. Let's go ahead and get his head back in place. There we go. Nice, like a classic look of Hordak's symbol, though. I mean, it's really not that much different from the Hordak. Granted, yes, he's missing his head right now. But the Hordak symbol is very similar as well. A little bit smaller bat wings. The head actually does have, it's got more of a point down below here. They sort of adopted the idea that Hordak's head would kind of take up the majority of the lower symbol, and then the wings would jet out the sides. I'm sorry, I can't have this conversation with Hordak's head missing. Just pop that back in place. So let's move it off to the side. I mean, the only other thing that really, when you're seeing the two, his skin color is the same. The coloring of the black and the red are very close, but like this Hordak does have a lot more gray. I think the gray works really well with the character. Now, again, like he does have this little, like, again, weapon attachment. For all intents and purposes, it does look like you'd be able to detach this. I haven't yet done it. I'm probably just going to end up leaving it on there, though. He's also got a belt piece that's kind of interesting. I kind of would have expected this to be molded to the rest of his loincloth, but what they've done instead, I guess it would, from a tooling standpoint, it makes probably more sense just to have molded this as a separate piece, and then that could just easily go over top the loincloth. Some nice, decently sculpted boots down below here. I suppose that's supposed to be fur down below, so it kind of has a little bit more of a furry trim. Like the red, I think the red and the gray work really well. There's a whole lot less, though, of gray here on Hordak than, you know, again, the Origins versions of Hordak, or really any iteration of Hordak tends to have a whole lot more gray. For the figure's articulation, the head's going to be on a ball joint, so it allows the head to rotate all the way around. The head's going to look down and look up, and you can also move it back and forth as well. The upper torso is only sadly going to be on a swivel. That goes with the territory of all Origins figures. This arm rotates all the way around, although sometimes I've noticed on this arm, when you go to swivel it, it seems to get so close in quarters to the torso and ends up popping the arm off. As you can see, it's just easy to snap it back into place. This arm also hinges out at a T pose. The figure does have a swivel over here. The figure also has a swivel over here. Yeah. Single hinge in the elbows only. The hands do rotate all the way around. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say hands, plural, because he really only has one. This hand technically also does rotate all the way around, so it's only going to be, because it's only attached to a peg, that peg allows this to do this. The legs do split out, not very far granted. They do certainly go forward and back. There's a little bit of a mild swivel at the top. Single hinge in the knee, swivels back and forth. This boot, by the way, the knee cap, the knee guard, I should say, and the rest of the boot looks like it's all one piece. So I suppose if you were to detach the foot somehow and just, you'd probably be able to slide this completely off. But, you know, it finishes the look to Hordak, even though really between the two figures, I feel like this one's my least favorite, but I have plans for this guy. I have, yes, some good plans in store for this Hordak. For the ankle, it goes up and down. There's a nice ankle rocker. And yeah, this version of Hordak, even though being concept, does have still manages to pull off peg holes on the bottoms of his feet. So good looking figure. I mean, I think really though, I mean, I think if they were sold separately, I probably would have been more interested, I think, to get Grizzlor. Just Grizzlor's got a little bit more of an interesting look. And, you know, just because you're a big fan of this look of Grizzlor, who has a whole lot more fur on him, I would probably just end up displaying this version of Grizzlor, I think, as a back side character. He could be part of the Horde. He doesn't have to necessarily borrow the exact same name. If you have like a collection of Master Universe figures, doesn't mean you have to follow the norm. This character being released as Grizzlor, he then has to be Grizzlor any other time that you're displaying this guy on the shelf. The thing I really like about Grizzlor is he's got a brand new unique head sculpt. It kind of looks like, it looks mostly like a woolly mammoth. Long tusks sticking out of his face. Again, because this guy's not going to be on my shelf as a Grizzlor, I'll have to come up with some more clever of a name. If you can think of a clever name to call concept art Grizzlor, let me know down below in the comment section. I was trying to think of something along the lines of Tusk. I couldn't think of anything. I was thinking Tusk. Clearly, it tells me I have to spend a little bit more time coming up with a clever name. But I love the head sculpt. I think it's really neat on this figure. It sort of looks like he's also got himself like a breathing guard down below here. Maybe he can't breathe the regular air on that planet. He does have, of course, the Horde symbol. That's also down here as well. It looks very faithful to the original concept sketch of this guy. He does also have the Horde symbol band there on the side of his body. It looks like they're probably using like the Beastman body. I mean, that probably goes with the territory. Anytime you're going to have a hairy character, just pull it obviously from Beastman's body. What's cool though is that he also has this fur collar. Now the collar goes obviously on the front here, and that's the part that's obviously part of his bandolier. He has a loincloth, which is really strange because the loincloth being the same color as the rest of his legs ends up just kind of looking like it's just all part of his body. Like he's not really wearing a loincloth that just happens to be his body. These leg guards, these thigh guards pop off quite frequently. So if you are getting this figure for yourself, don't be frustrated that yours is doing the same. Again, it just kind of snaps in place, but I mean, they fall off really too frequently. There's real no way, I suppose, around that. Then he has Horde boots down below here. Really interesting that they gave him like metal boots, like metal feet down below. Still, though, he has peg holes on the bottoms of his feet. Now, for when it comes to Grizzlor's articulation, he's going to be granted a little bit more limited just because there's not much that you can do with his head. Got to come up with a better name than Tusk. Up and down motion of that again for the head. The waist swivels and allows the body to do this. Arms rotate. Normally I would again say all the way around, but as you're rotating across the top part of his bandolier, it then ends up just popping off his joints all the time. So again, we're just kind of line everything up here. So forward and back motion, let's go. We'll just stay with that. Forward and back motion for the arms. There's again that swiveled here for the elbows. Whether you wanted to obviously display this guy with the claws or not, his hand's going to work the exact same way. And even though I kind of covered him over with his hair claw hands, you can actually see that they've actually done a nice job of painting his own hands with each of the individual nails and thumbnail colored in. Hands rotate all the way around. You can hinge them back and forth. Grizzlor's legs split out about that far. You can take the legs and move forward. You can move them back. There's a obvious little swivel there at the top of the thigh. Single hinge on the knee. I did notice, though, the knee on my Grizzlor is a little on the looser side. They don't seem like, if you're looking at the back of his legs, too, they look like they could have been popped in a little further. And yet when I try to do that, they don't go in any further. But it does seem like I don't want to say that they're not assembled correctly, because, again, like if you're looking at Skeletors, I would say they're probably about the same. Obviously, different body altogether, but they plug in the same way, but I just can't help but notice that Grizzlors look like they're a little looser. Swivel on the legs, back and forth. Yeah, again, he's got the single hinge in the knee. The lower boots also do rotate back and forth, and I did notice, again, this guy, the packaging, while he was loose in some areas, he was tighter in others. The ankle is really tight to move on this figure. Not as tight necessarily to move the feet back and forth, but really tight up and down. Again, I got this set from the toy show that I went to just recently. Sort of when I went into that, I had an idea in mind. That's probably a good thing, too. When you're going to a toy show, or any show for that matter, kind of go in there with the idea, this is what I'm looking for, and then anything else after the fact just happens to be gravy. Grizzlor and the Hordak concept art 2-pack was the set I was kind of looking for first and foremost, and I was also looking for the Masterverse Skeletor with Throne. Didn't find him. However, though, I did find one seller in the entire room that I walked that was selling this set for $80. I went up to him. Actually, I kind of went up to him the first time. I said, oh, you got the Hordak and Grizzlor, which right away sort of sent out feelers to this seller. He already knew this guy was interested. Then, of course, I walked away for a little bit, and I thought to myself, I don't want to walk too far away in case somebody happens to buy it for the $80. I went back. I kind of lingered around the area right around here. I was looking at other stuff. I kept looking back. Maybe he had caught my eye a couple of times. Anyways, needless to say, I walked back. I said to the guy, would you take $70 for this? I think it took him only a couple of seconds, $10 for at least a set that he could sell, end up walking away with it for. So like at the end of that, each of these figures end up costing me about $35 a piece. To get finally concept arts of the characters, I know it's not really like the traditional look to Hordak, because for me, like Hordak, you can't really beat the classic look, even though like this guy really kind of beats that look by, well, it's the original concept sketch of him. So obviously that's the way that Hordak would have looked before they went with the pig face that we're all kind of more familiar with. Grizzlor is probably the most departed character when it comes to his design. He's losing fur altogether. Instead, he's getting a Beastman body, brand new head sculpt with a tusk face. That looks really super cool. And then when, of course, you incorporate some of Skeletor's claws, makes her a much more interesting character when you think of the two. Obviously, I'm glad that this was sold as a set. It saved me having to try to track them down individually. And while I have more plans just to have Grizzlor on the shelf, as you're seeing right now, I have, I think, other plans for concept art as Hordak. And I think it has a lot more to do when we look at Hurricane Hordak in one of the upcoming videos. There are some Master Universe figures that I'm not in a super hurry to try to pick up. Unfortunately, though, for the case of concept art Hordak and Grizzlor, these characters weren't ones that I was super anxious to get right away. And I was kind of thinking to myself, if I don't find it at the toy show, I'm going to wait for a while and maybe eventually they'll show up on eBay. I mean, if I didn't have any plans to review this set, I probably could have just done that and waited a little bit longer to get them. But as I happen to have just been going to that show for that day, I thought to myself, okay, the two things that I'm most looking forward to getting is the concept art Hordak and Grizzlor, because I thought to myself, if I could save the cost of shipping and the conversion costs, plus I'm not paying tax. And I would always really say, too, if you guys are interested to kind of track down some figures, check out your local toy shows, because the dealers that are selling them there, first of all, aren't selling anything with tax tacked onto it. You're not paying the conversion. You're not paying for shipping. You're not paying any of that. You see something on the table, you see it for a good deal and pick it up. And you can always really haggle with the guys as well. Even if this guy, say, for example, was going to say, like, sorry, I don't want to really sell it for less than the 80. I probably would have walked away again, would have just hovered around that table. He would have very well known that I was still there, and I would have walked back and I would have offered up the 80. Getting this set for the 80 without all the extra charges that go along with ordering something like this online, still for a steep, more expensive set, I think for like $80 and get two figures for $40 a piece, I still think that's not a bad price at all. Of the two, though, I still think Grizzlor is the better looking figure just because it's so unique. It's so different. Not that Hordak you can't make those same details and descriptions for, but with Hordak having more of a simpler looking face. Granted, though, he is the original concept design of Hordak long before he became pig face Hordak. It's still not probably as interesting for me as Grizzlor is. Grizzlor is just a really neat looking character. Can you think of any other ways of describing this or any other name that you could give Grizzlor other than the obvious? I was trying to think of something that included tusk, but I was drawing a blank. If you can think of more of a creative name to give the new version of Grizzlor, or the original concept for Grizzlor, let me know your name down below in the comment section. If you guys have had the chance to pick up the set, let me know what you guys think of it down below in the comment section. And as well, if you guys did enjoy this video, yeah, do it a solid. Throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I certainly hope so. This, by the way, isn't going to be the end of the Master Universe reviews. In fact, there's going to be a lot more coming your way for the rest of this week. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.